She's standing on stage again, but this time it's different. The underground venue is packed, more crowded than she's ever seen it. Gold hoops catching light, heart pounding. But tonight, she's not performing her usual set. Tonight, she's about to do something that terrifies her more than any crowd ever could. Ayomide takes a breath and speaks into the microphone. A few months ago, I stood on a stage just like this one and said that money doesn't mean you can please a woman. That connection, real connection, is what we trade our hearts for. Her voice cracks slightly, emotion bleeding through. I meant every word. But what I didn't know then was that I was wrong about something else entirely. The crowd leans forward. Some recognize her. Some remember that night. I was wrong because I thought protecting my heart meant building walls. I thought safety meant running before things got complicated. I thought love had to fit into rules I'd carved in stone. She pauses, scanning the crowd until she finds him. But then someone proved me wrong, not by breaking my roles, by showing me they were never really about money at all. They were about fear. In the back corner, Jihoon stands with tears in his eyes, watching the woman who changed everything. I spent my whole life trying to be seen for who I really am. Ayo continues, her voice stronger now. And the irony is when someone finally saw me, truly saw me, I almost ran away because he came in packaging I didn't expect. Because he had things I thought would destroy us. Because I was so busy protecting myself from what could go wrong that I almost missed what was going right. She steps down from the stage, microphone still in hand, walking directly toward him as the crowd parts like water. "Han Jihoon," she says, standing in front of him now, vulnerable and brave and completely certain. "You told me to try you, so I'm trying. I'm terrified and uncertain and probably making a mistake, but I'm trying. Because you make me feel like home in a city thousands of miles from where I was born. Because you see me. Because when I'm with you, I'm not the foreign girl or the struggling artist or someone's idea of who I should be. I'm just me." Before we dive into how they got here, if you believe in love that breaks all the rules, hit that like button right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications because stories like this don't come around every day. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to choose between protecting your heart and taking a leap of faith? Now let's go back to where it all began. This is the story of how Ayomide and Jihoon broke every rule, defied every expectation, and found something real in a world full of pretense. Stay until the end because what they discovered will restore your faith in love that chooses courage over comfort. The stage lights dim to crimson. Bass pulses through the underground venue like a heartbeat. She grips the microphone, her gold hoops catching fragments of light as she leans forward and speaks the words that will shatter someone's world tonight. Money doesn't mean you can please a woman. The crowd roars. But one man in the shadows doesn't move. He just watches with dark, knowing eyes. And when she walks off that stage, riding the high of applause and adrenaline, he appears from nowhere, tall, dangerous, magnetic, and leans so close you can feel his breath against her ear. 2 words. That's all it takes. Try me. Her heart stops, her rules crumble, and nothing will ever be the same. This is the story of Ayomide and Jihoon, a woman who swore off wealthy men and the man who proved that connection has nothing to do with bank accounts. Stay until the end, because what happens between them will make you believe in love again. But before we dive in, if you love stories about unexpected romance, real connection, and love that breaks all the rules, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. And drop a comment telling me, have you ever had someone challenge everything you believed about love? Let me know below. Now, let's get into Ayo's world. Seoul pulsed with neon energy, a city that never truly slept. For foreigners, it was a place of contradictions, welcoming yet isolating, modern yet traditional, beautiful yet unforgiving. Ayomide Kalu, known simply as Ayo, had learned to navigate these contradictions with grace. By day, she worked at a cozy café in Hongdae, the kind of place where indie music played softly and struggling artists nursed single coffees for hours. The walls were covered in vintage posters, plants hung from the ceiling, and the smell of fresh espresso mixed with old books created an atmosphere Ayo loved. It reminded her of poetry, of possibility, of the creative spirit she'd come to Seoul to nurture. But night belonged to her completely. Ayo owned Seoul's underground music scene. Open mics, poetry slams, intimate performances in venues most tourists would never find. These were her stages. Her voice was raw and honest, carrying the weight of experiences she'd lived and observations she'd collected. She sang about love that hurt, identity that confused, and freedom that cost more than people wanted to pay. She was 26 years old, Nigerian by birth, and thoroughly herself by choice. Her natural hair formed a crown around her face, her style mixed vintage band tees with bold African prints, and her presence commanded attention without demanding it. But Ayo had one rule carved in stone. She didn't date wealthy men. Not because she hated success or resented money. She'd simply seen what wealth did to relationships. It created imbalance. It made men think they could buy devotion instead of earning it. It turned partnerships into transactions. Her grandmother's voice still echoed in her mind. Ayo, a man who leads with his wallet has nothing in his heart. Those words had guided her through countless interactions with men who thought expensive dinners and designer gifts would win her affection. They never did, which made what was about to happen all the more impossible. It was a Friday night in late autumn. The underground venue was packed with the usual crowd: artists, students, expats, Koreans who preferred raw talent to manufactured pop. Smoke hung in the air like whispered secrets, and the lighting was deliberately dim, creating an atmosphere of intimacy and rebellion. Ayo stepped onto the small wooden stage wearing ripped jeans, a vintage concert tee, and those gold hoops that caught light like tiny suns. No costume, no pretense, just her. The music started, a slow, sultry beat with just enough edge to keep you leaning forward. She didn't sing at first. She spoke. Let me tell you something about men with money. The room went silent. People shifted in their seats. Drinks paused halfway to lips. They think it's enough. They think a black card and a penthouse view means you'll forget they don't know your favorite song, that they've never asked what keeps you up at night, that they don't even remember your middle name. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. Money doesn't mean you can please a woman. Her voice rose, powerful and clear. Connection, real connection. That's what we trade our hearts for. Everything else is just noise. The crowd erupted. Cheers, applause, people rising to their feet. But in the back corner, one man didn't clap. He just watched. He was tall with a sharp jawline and dark eyes that seemed to absorb everything. His black coat was perfectly tailored, the kind of garment that whispered wealth without shouting it. And he was smiling, not mockingly, but with genuine interest, as if Ayo had just said something only he understood. Ayo finished her set to a standing ovation. The adrenaline coursed through her veins as she walked off stage, her heart still racing from the performance. Her friend Sola grabbed her arm immediately. "Girl, you absolutely killed that." Ayo grinned. "I know." But Sola's voice dropped, her eyes darting toward the narrow hallway leading backstage. "What are you talking about?" Sola nodded toward the shadows. And there he was, the man from the back corner. Up close, he was even more striking, not threatening, something else entirely. He had the kind of presence that made you feel seen, truly seen, in a way that was both thrilling and unsettling. Ayo crossed her arms defensively. "Can I help you?" He didn't answer immediately, just looked at her, really looked at her, taking in every detail with unhurried attention. Then he stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Clean, expensive, subtle. Close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to maintain eye contact. He leaned in, right next to her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "Try me." His voice was low, smooth, deliberate. 2 words that carried the weight of a challenge. Ayo froze, not from fear, but from something she couldn't name. No one had ever thrown her words back at her like that. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. "Excuse me?" He straightened, hands sliding casually into his pockets, that slight smile still playing at his lips. "You said money can't please a woman. I'm saying try me. Let's see if you're right." Ayo tilted her head, studying him. "You think you're different? I think you won't know unless you find out." Before she could respond, before she could process what was happening, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd as smoothly as he'd appeared, leaving her standing there, heart pounding, mind racing. Who the hell was that? Quick pause. If you're already hooked on Ayo and this mysterious man, show some love. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and comment below, Team, she should give him a chance, or Team, she should run. I want to know what you think. And keep watching, because what happens next changes everything. Ayo tried to forget him. She told herself he was just another arrogant, wealthy man trying to prove something, trying to turn her convictions into a game he could win. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. 2 days later, on a slow Tuesday afternoon, the café door chimed. Ayo looked up from wiping tables, and there he was. Same coat, same calm energy, same unsettling ability to make everything around him seem less important. He ordered an Americano, black, no sugar, and sat by the window. He didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her, just pulled out book and started reading. Her coworker Minji elbowed her. "That guy keeps looking at you." "He's not looking at me." "Girl, he's been here for over an hour. 1 coffee, no phone, just sitting." Ayo glanced over. He turned a page, still not looking up. It was infuriating. She marched over to his table. "Are you following me?" He looked up, genuinely surprised. "No?" "Then why are you everywhere I am?" "I like good coffee." "That's bullshit." He closed his book carefully, marking his place. "You really think I'm following you? Aren't you?" He stood slowly, and suddenly, Ayo realized how tall he was, how he seemed to fill the space without trying. "If I wanted to find you, Ayomide, I wouldn't need to follow you." Her breath caught. He knew her name. "How do you—" "Your friend at the venue said it." Rather loudly, actually. Ayo narrowed her eyes. "What do you want?" "To prove you wrong." "About what?" "About men with money." He left exact change on the table, no excessive tip, no flex, and walked out, leaving her standing there again, frustrated and curious in equal measure. That night, Ayo performed at a different venue. Smaller crowd, more intimate setting. She tried to focus on her music, on the words she'd written, on the emotions she wanted to convey. But she spotted him before she even started singing. Back corner, same position, watching with that same intense focus. It threw her off, just for a second, but enough. After the show, Ayo didn't wait. She stormed up to him. "Okay, seriously? Are you stalking me?" He looked up calmly. "No." "Then explain why you're at every single one of my shows." "I told you I like good music." "And I told you that's bullshit." He stood, and they were face to face now, close enough that she could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "You're talented, Ayo. Is it really that hard to believe someone would want to hear you perform? When that someone is a wealthy man in a designer coat who whispers cryptic things in my ear? Yes." He smiled then, a real smile that reached his eyes and transformed his entire face. "What's your name?" she demanded. "Jihoon. Ahn Jihoon." "And what do you do?" "Ahn Jihoon." "I run a company." "What kind?" "The boring kind." Despite herself, despite every defense she'd built, Ayo laughed. "Why are you really here?" she asked, her voice softer now. Jihoon looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something vulnerable in his expression. "Because you're the first person I've met in years who doesn't care about what I have. You care about who people are. And I want to know more about the woman who stands on stage and tells the truth like it's the easiest thing in the world." Ayo felt her defenses crack, just slightly. "I don't date wealthy men," she said quietly. "I'm not asking you to date me." "Then what are you asking?" "Just let me walk you home." She shouldn't have said yes. Every instinct told her to walk away, to protect herself, to maintain her boundaries. But she said yes anyway. They walked through the neon-lit streets of Hongdae, past late-night food stalls sending up clouds of savory steam, past karaoke bars blasting K-pop into the night air, past groups of students laughing and couples holding hands. At first, they didn't talk, just walked in surprisingly comfortable silence. Then Jihoon broke it. "Why Seoul?" Ayo glanced at him. "Why not? Most people have a reason." She sighed. "I needed to go somewhere I could be myself, without everyone already having an opinion about who that was supposed to be. Back home, I was always someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone's idea of what a Nigerian woman should be. Here, I'm just me." "And have you found yourself?" "I'm getting there." They walked a bit more, their footsteps falling into an easy rhythm. "What about you?" Ayo asked. "Why do you hide in the back of music venues instead of doing whatever wealthy people do?" Jihoon laughed, a genuine sound, "Because whatever wealthy people do is incredibly boring." "So you're bored?" "I'm lonely." The honesty hit her like a physical force. She stopped walking, turning to face him. He continued, his voice quiet but clear. "People see the money, the success. They don't see the pressure, the expectations, the fact that I can't remember the last time someone asked me how I was doing and actually waited for an answer, really waited, not just as a formality. Is that why you came to my show? Because I told the truth?" "Yes." "And that's why you keep showing up?" "Yes." Ayo looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she didn't see a wealthy man trying to add her to his collection. She saw a lonely man trying to find something real. "Okay," she said. "Okay, what?" "Okay, you can walk me home, but don't think this means anything." Jihoon smiled. "Wouldn't dream of it." "Okay, I need to know. Are you feeling this connection between them? Because it's about to get even deeper. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe because I post emotional stories like this every week. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most honest thing someone has ever said to you? Now, back to the story, because what happens next will make your heart race. Over the next few weeks, something shifted between them. Ayo stopped pretending she didn't look for Jihoon at her shows. Jihoon stopped pretending he was there purely for the music. They started spending time together. Not dates, neither of them called them that. Just moments. Coffee at the café where Ayo worked, where she'd make him try different drinks and laugh at his reactions. Walks through Seoul after her performances, exploring neighborhoods neither of them had visited before. Late-night conversations about everything and nothing, sitting on benches or walls or wherever they happened to stop. One evening, they were sitting by the Han River. The city lights reflected off the water like fallen stars, and the air was cool with approaching winter. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Jihoon said suddenly. Ayo laughed. "That's a big ask." "I'll go first." She looked at him, surprised. "I'm terrified," he said, his eyes on the water, "of becoming the kind of man people only love for what he can give them, not who he is. Of waking up one day and realizing I'm surrounded by people who would disappear if the money did." Ayo's heart ached. She reached over and took his hand, the first time she'd initiated physical contact. "Your turn," he said softly. She took a breath. "I'm scared that no matter how successful I become, no matter how many stages I stand on, or how many people sing my words back to me, they'll always see me as the foreign girl who got lucky, not the artist who worked for it, not someone who earned her place." Jihoon squeezed her hand. "Then we'll prove them wrong. Together." It was a promise neither of them fully understood yet, but it felt real. A few days later, Ayo was feeling bold. "Okay, Mr. Try Me," she said over coffee, a mischievous glint in her eye. "I have a challenge for you." Jihoon raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "You think you can please me without your money? Prove it. Tomorrow. You plan something, but no credit cards, no drivers, no shortcuts. Just you." Jihoon grinned. "Deal." The next day, he showed up at her apartment on foot, wearing jeans, a hoodie, and a baseball cap. Ayo burst out laughing. "Who are you?" "Just a guy trying to impress a girl." They took the subway, squeezing into crowded cars with students and workers. They ate street food from vendors, arguing playfully about which tteokbokki stand was best. They played games at a tiny arcade where Jihoon was hilariously terrible at everything, and Ayo teased him mercilessly. They sang awful karaoke, both of them tone deaf and not caring at all. They laughed until their stomachs hurt, until tears ran down their faces, until Ayo couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this light. And somewhere between the spicy rice cakes and the terrible rendition of a song neither of them really knew, Ayo realized something that terrified her. She liked him. Not the wealthy businessman, not the mysterious man from the venue, just him, Jihoon. The man who laughed at his own terrible gaming skills and didn't mind looking foolish. That night, walking back through quiet streets, Ayo's phone buzzed. It was Sola. "Girl, do you know who you've been hanging out with?" Ayo frowned. "Yeah, Jihoon. Why?" "Ayo, he's not just wealthy, he's wealthy. Like his family owns half the buildings in Gangnam. He's been in business magazines. His father is practically a legend in Korean business. His ex-girlfriend is a famous actress who's been in like 20 dramas." Ayo's stomach dropped. "What?" "Just be careful, okay? That's a different world." Ayo hung up, her mind spinning. She looked at Jihoon walking beside her. hands in his pockets, humming the song they'd butchered at karaoke. "Is something wrong?" he asked, noticing her expression. "Why didn't you tell me who you really are?" Jihoon stopped walking. "What do you mean?" "I mean, your family, your status, the fact that you're not just some businessman, you're practically Korean business royalty." "Because it doesn't matter." "It doesn't matter?" Her voice rolls despite her efforts to control it. "Jihoon, you lied to me." "I never lied. I just didn't lead with it. Because every single time I do, people change. They start seeing the money instead of me. They start calculating what they can get instead of who we could be together. And I thought..." He stopped, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I thought you understood that." "But I deserve to know." "Why? So you could run? Like you're doing right now?" Ayo froze because he was right. She was running, preparing her escape before things got too real, too complicated. Hold on, before we get to what happens next, if this story is hitting you in the feels, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell and drop a comment telling me, have you ever walked away from something because you were scared? Share your story below. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Let's continue. "I came to your shows because you made me feel like a person again. Not a bank account, not a family name, not someone's business opportunity. Just me. And I thought you understood that because you're fighting the same battle, wanting people to see you for who you are, not where you're from or what they assume about you." Tears stung Ayo's eyes. "I do understand, but I also know how this ends. People like you don't end up with people like me. Your family will hate me. Society will judge us. I'll always be the foreign girl who trapped the rich heir." "Says who?" "Everyone." Jihoon stepped closer, his voice desperate now. "I don't care what everyone says. I care what you say. What do you want, Ayo? Not what you think you should want, not what makes sense. What do you actually want?" "I'm scared, Jihoon." "So am I. I'm terrified, but I'd rather be terrified with you than safe and lonely without you." Ayo's tears spilled over. "What if we try and it doesn't work?" A week passed, then two. Ayo stopped answering Jihoon's calls. She didn't go to the cafe during his usual hours. She locked herself in her apartment and tried to convince herself she'd made the right choice, the safe choice. But she couldn't stop thinking about him, about his laugh, about the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the world, about how he made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. One night, there was a knock on her door. She opened it, already knowing who it would be. Jihoon stood there, no expensive coat, just a simple black sweater and jeans. He looked tired, worried, vulnerable. "I need to show you something," he said. "Jihoon, please, just this one thing. And if you still want me to leave after, I will, I promise." Against every logical thought, every self-protective instinct, she followed him. He took her to a rooftop she'd never seen before, overlooking the city. Seoul stretched out beneath them, a sea of light and possibility. "I've been coming here since I was a kid," Jihoon said quietly. "Whenever the pressure got too much, whenever I felt like I was drowning in expectations, this was my escape." He turned to her and she saw tears in his eyes. "And then I met you. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need to come here anymore because you made me feel like I could breathe, like I didn't have to be anyone except myself." "Jihoon, I don't need my wealth to have your love, Ayo. I don't want my money to be the reason you stay or the reason you leave. I just need you to let me try. Let me prove that what we have is real, regardless of bank accounts or family names or what anyone else thinks." Tears streamed down her face. "What if this doesn't work? Then at least we tried. What if your family hates me? Then they'll learn to love you because I do. What if I'm not strong enough for this?" Jihoon pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like a shelter from every storm. "You're the strongest person I know. You left everything you knew to build a life on your own terms. You stand on stages and tell truths people are afraid to hear. You looked at me, knowing what I come from, and you didn't see a meal ticket. You saw a lonely person who needed connection. You're more than strong enough." And then he kissed her again, and Ayo stopped fighting, stopped running, stopped protecting herself from the one thing she'd been searching for all along. If this moment just gave you chills, I need you to do something. Like this video right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Subscribe for more powerful love stories that prove real connection is everything. And comment, what's your favorite moment so far? Keep watching because the ending will stay with you forever. 3 months later, Aya was performing at the biggest venue of her career. The crowd was massive, the energy electric. Her music had grown, evolved, deepened with everything she'd experienced. And in the front row, Jihoon sat watching with that same smile he'd worn the first night. Proud, captivated, completely present. After the show, he met her backstage with flowers, simple and beautiful. "You were incredible," he said. "You say that every time." "Because it's true every time." They walked through Seoul hand in hand, past all their meaningful places. The café where they'd first really talked, the arcade where he'd failed spectacularly at every game, the rooftop where he told her she was everything. "I love you," Ayo said, suddenly, stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. Jihoon stopped, his eyes widening. "What?" "I love you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I was so afraid of what loving you might cost that I almost missed what loving you could give." He pulled her close, his voice thick with emotion. "I love you too. I've loved you since you stood on that stage and challenged every assumption I'd ever made." They stood there in the middle of Seoul, holding each other as the city moved around them. Two people who'd found connection in the most unexpected way. 6 months later, Aya released her first album. Jihoon was at every recording session, not because he paid for it, she'd insisted on earning it herself, but because he believed in her. His family eventually came around, won over by Ayo's talent and authenticity. She never tried to be anything other than herself, and somehow that was exactly what earned their respect. They faced judgment, of course, whispers about the wealthy heir and the foreign artist, speculation about motives and money, but they learned to tune it out, to focus on what they'd built together. One evening, sitting on their favorite bench by the Han River, Jihoon asked, "Do you remember what you said that first night about money not being able to please a woman?" Ayo smiled. "I remember, and I stand by it. Even now? Especially now, because you prove my point. It wasn't your money that won me over. It was you. The man who showed up to my performances, who walked me home, who was willing to take the subway and eat street food and be terrible at arcade games just to spend time with me. That's what pleased me. Connection, presence, truth. Jihoon kissed her forehead. Thank you for letting me try. Thank you for not giving up when I ran. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights reflect off the water, two souls who'd found each other against all odds. Some people say money can't buy love. Ayo had always known that, but what she'd learned was that love could find you in the most unexpected places, in a whisper, in a challenge, in two words that changed everything. Try me. Because sometimes the heart knows better than the mind, and sometimes the person you least expect turns out to be exactly who you need. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in real connection, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this. Second, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another emotional journey. And third, comment below and tell me, what's the most important lesson you learned from Ayo and Jihoon's story? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Tag them in the comments. Let's spread this message that love isn't about what you have, it's about who you are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in real love. I'll see you in the next story.